Hey crafty friends, I'm back with another video featuring products from Scrappy Boy Stamps. Today we're going to be making a few Christmas cards using the Christmas Carol collection. We're going to be using the stamp and die set along with the Christmas Carol 6x6 paper. I'm going to show you my process of mass producing Christmas cards, and I usually will get a tray that I have all my pre-stamped and colored images in. I've cut them. I'll cut around them, and then I'll sit down with the die and do a die cutting session, which is what we're about to do. So I will take my mini cutter, and I can do this while watching a movie or anything like that, but I will take and grab a couple of my stamped and pre-colored images, and also I will do other elements I want to use at the same time as well normally. So I will pull out my dies, and I will go ahead and die cut all of these, and I will be right back. All right, I've got everything, all my parts and pieces cut out. I've got my card sketches that I'm planning on using today. So we are going to pull in our Christmas paper, and I'm going to make 6 cards. So I'm going to got my Christmas Carol card paper here. I'm going to use that pattern. I like this city scene, but I'm not going to use that today because that's a very bold pattern, and I want the images to be the focal image. Might can use that. We could probably use that one. I'm going to use that. And I think the holly. All right, so for sketch number 1, I'm going to need to cut this at 3 inches. And then I will cut this one at 3 inches. That will be for this part of my sketch. And then I will cut the next layer at 5 inches. And then that gets cut at 1.5. So that way I can use the other side. And this little piece right here will get cut at 1/2 inch. So all we'll have to do is cut my matte layers for that. My next sketch, excuse me, I'm going to need to cut this at 3 inches. And then this will get cut at 3.5. And then that should leave me a 3 by 2.5 inch piece. So there's card number 2. There's those. For my next one, I need a 3 by 5.5. So I'll cut that down in the middle at 3. And then we'll cut this at 5.5. And we have our card front and our little piece. All right, I'm going to cut my mats, and I will be right back. All right, I have 3 sheets of 8.5 by 11 watt heavy, ultra thick cardstock. I'm going to score these and cut these in half to make my 6 card bases that I'm going to need. So we'll take and score this in half at 5.5. And then I will fold those and take my bone folder, and I will, when I cut that in half, I will have my 2 card bases for 1 set of cards. So I'll go ahead and score the rest of these, and I will be right back. I've got my card bases ready to go. We're going to go ahead and cut these in half, and you want a nice sturdy trimmer to do this, because since they're already folded and ready to go, I can just cut and have that 2 card bases right there. This is another way I like to mass produce my Christmas cards. or any design team work that I have to do. I will do this all at one time. Usually I just have a stack of these already pre-made and ready to go so that I can just grab them and create. All right, we've got our card bases. I've got my prepared items right there. So what I like to do is I like to sit down when I'm watching TV. I can sit with this tray or any kind of tray. This is just a fridge bin that you can get on Amazon or anywhere. I can sit down with the tray in front of me or on a table, and I can have my card bases, and I can go step by step on how I put these all together. Like I'll start and take my glue and add my adhesive to my panels, to my mat layers. So I'll have that. We can go ahead and do this one. So I'll go ahead and add that. And then I will start building up each layer, each section of my card. And then I will keep my little scrap pieces as well, because I know I will have to have those to add a little bit of lift to some of the pieces as well. So I'll go ahead and attach this. And I'm going to move this over slightly. There, so there's my first section. I will do all these at one time. Go step by step, do all of this step, and then I'll work on the sentiments and all that. If I want to use die cut sentiments, I would have already done those in my die cutting session to make it super easy. But this is just an easy way to just sit and mass produce your projects or cards and have them all ready to go. And when you have one collection that you're working with, it makes it super easy because you know everything will coordinate and go together perfectly. So this one I turned, to make it a little bit different, I turned it because that pattern is going to go better that way. Totally do that with any kind of sketch. You don't have to go completely the way they are. Add that piece back behind there. You can totally make them your own. And they're usually, sketches are just a jumping off point. Always remember that. They are not the end all be all. There's card number 2. So we can go ahead and work on our sections for our next one. And if you notice, I have everything stacked up together, and I kept my cardstock layers the same so that I could make it all easy. Again, that's part of working with a collection because I knew that red that I picked out, the red cardstock that I picked out would go with all of the papers in this pattern paper pack. So there was no worries that things would not go together. So go ahead and add that. I always like to make sure my card bases are going the right direction. So there's always that. We want to make sure that they're all together. All right, I have all my card fronts and bases ready to go. So now is the fun part, is I can take and go through my die cut pieces that we have stamped and colored and pick out the images that I want to use on each card front. So we'll go through and do that. So I just pick those. I will stack them up together. So that way I know now what's going to go on what, and I can start working on our sentiments. So I will go back to our stamp set, and I go through and figure out where I might be able to put a sentiment on my cards, or if I'm going to have to take and do an additional banner or something to go on them. So we will figure that out. All right, so I'm going to go through and I'm going to stamp our sentiments. For this card, I'm going to stamp it onto a piece of white cardstock so that I can just trim out a little banner. So I've got that. For the ones that are lighter in color, I can actually just use stamp on the paper. So I'm going to line this up. Make sure that that is lined up in my Misty. And I can stamp that down. And then I will go ahead and keep my stack together so that I know that everything is nice and lined up. So I'll go ahead and stamp on this one. I'm just going to stamp right across that pattern paper banner. That way that one will be ready to go. And this one we're going to stamp with our little spirit right there. So we'll stamp that one. So she's ready to go. All right, for this one, I'm going to stamp my sentiments right in that open area right there. Because this stamp set has the two smaller sentiments, the Bah Humbug and Don't Be a Scrooge, that will fit perfectly right in these. That little rectangle. So that is fabulous there. I always try to look for places that I can add the sentiment and not have to worry about adding any additional cardstock if I can get away with it. Sometimes when it's a dark background, it's hard to do that. So we just stamp another on another sheet of paper. All right, now once all my assembly process, this line of the process is done, I can come through and start adding my focal images. If I wanted to pop any of them up, I can. I usually don't on my Christmas cards because I try to minimize as much bulk as possible. So I try to just keep it super easy and just add them together as with little bulk as possible to make it nice and Pretty, and no wonder that was weird because it was a piece of foiled cardstock. It's okay. It will work just fine. So we'll add our Bob Cratchit and Tiny Tim to this one. But I will sit and go through and do all of these at one time so that when I get to the next step, that's all I have to work on is that one step. And I can do these when I have time during the day. I can maybe only have 15 minutes. I could run in, have these all ready to go, pop together a card or two, or do the coloring process, or whatever step I'm working on. I can have all that ready to go, and then just work on one or however long I have to work that day on my card making process. So we can go ahead and add our last one. Bob Marley. So now with that step done, I go on and move on to the next step, which is adding my highlights. So I will come through on each one and add all my little highlights where I want them to be. Also when on this step, I will also do any other embellishments that I want to do at the time. But I do all of them at once, like all my white highlights. I do all those. And then I will move on to my next embellishment, which might be adding our glitters, or adding your rhinestones, pearls, whatever you decide how you want to embellish your card. Just make sure you go by step by step. Like I already know for all of them, I'm going to have to I want to use my glaze pen to darken up their little eyes. So we will do that as one step. But I do like to get all my highlights done first, because that way I can adjust anything that I need to adjust. And add anything I want to add. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take my black glaze pen and darken up their little eyes. I do have to make sure that I don't restack them on top of each other, because that will be a mess. And if I accidentally go over like a little part of their white of their eyes, once the glaze pen is completely dry, which doesn't take very long, I can always come back and add in the white of their eyes again with my white pen. Like for her, we'll have to add that white back in. All right, so now we're going to come in with our Stardust stickles, and I'm going to add a little to each of the cards. Add some to his little sickle. Let's see, for Mr. Marley, I'm going to add some to his little hair. Just so that it has like a little sparkle to it, since it is a Christmas card after all. And it gives it more of a ethereal look. I'm going to add it to his little flames. And to the holly of the crown on him. We'll go ahead and give his little belt a little glitter as well. For her, I'm just going to add a little on the mistletoe crown of her. We can also add a little to her hair. To make her a little bit more ethereal looking. Let's see. Mr. Cratchit, we'll just add it to their scarves. Maybe to the band of Tiny Tim's hat and Mr. Cratchit's hat. And then for Scrooge, we'll add it to his little bag here. Just little accent pieces. I'm going to come in and pop in back in those white of their eyes on the ones that actually need it. Just to make a little bit stand out a little bit more. Our last one. All right, my friends, here are the 6 cards we just made together using card sketches and our Christmas Carol collection of products from Scrappy Boy Stamps. I will have all the supplies that I used today linked and listed below in the video description. If you want to pick those up, you can feel free to do so. I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys. Stay crafty. Love you.